The whistle first reached Lauren's ears just after midnight, a thin, trembling note carried by the wind through the rustling pines. She had not heard that particular tune for at least 10 years, not since the night her friend Eva vanished from the small clearing near Ridgeside Creek. Yet there it was again, unmistakable. Eva had always whistled that wandering minor key strain when she was nervous or bored or simply thinking. She had claimed the melody came to her in a dream, though no one could ever place its origin. Lauren sat up in bed, heart pounding. The lamp by her bedside trembled under her shaky hands when she switched it on. At first, she tried to convince herself it was just the wind weaving through the eaves. Still, deep down, she knew. She pulled aside the bedroom curtain and peered out into the dark. The whistle came again, a hushed, plaintive ghost of a sound, then vanished into the pine forest behind her family's old home. She did not sleep for the rest of the night. 3 days passed before she heard it again. It was late afternoon, and the sun cast long shadows across the backyard. In the years since she had moved back to the house, her grandmother's once pristine flower beds had grown wild. Brambles crept across the fence, curling into the path. Leaves clogged the corners of the deck. The once cozy idle place looked neglected, haunted by memories she couldn't quite face. At that moment, just as she was trying to quell the rising panic that always clawed at her stomach, a breeze sighed through the branches of the pines. The whistle came again, dancing on the current of air. Lauren's blood turned cold. She spun around on the deck, eyes scanning the backyard, the evergreen line, the tangle of overgrown shrubs. Of course, there was no one in sight. Her thoughts drifted to Eva, the curly-haired girl who had once been her closest companion, the fearless mischief-maker who could climb the highest pine and never look down, who always teased the rest of them for being too afraid. She also had a playful streak that could tip over into recklessness at any moment. In the end, it was that daring spirit, that boundary-pushing thirst for excitement that had ended with her vanishing in the dead of night. 5 people had been there that evening, and Lauren was one of them. Neither the police nor the search parties found conclusive evidence of what had happened, or where Eva might have gone. They found a single shoe near the watery edge of the creek, but that hardly proved anything. The official story largely chalked it up to a runaway, though no one in the group believed that. When her disappearance remained unsolved, each of the remaining 4 eventually left the area, searching for new starts or ways to forget. But Lauren found herself drawn back, unable to escape the sense that Eva might still be here somewhere in these dark pines. The phone rang, shattering her thoughts. She stepped inside to answer. It was Theo's voice on the line. "I heard it too," he said without preamble. "Are you home?" She nodded automatically, forgetting he couldn't see her. "Yes. Have you been back long?" "Came in this morning. My mother needed help clearing out her attic. I was about to ignore it all, try to pretend I didn't notice anything weird. Then I heard that whistle. It has to mean something, Lauren." She sank into the worn armchair by the window. "You think we're both imagining the same memory at the same time?" He gave a hollow laugh. "No. Something or someone is trying to get our attention. We owe it to Ava to find out what it is." Lauren's gaze drifted to the backyard again. "We can't do it alone. We need the others." Managed to gather in the parking lot of the old diner the next day. Mia arrived first, stepping out of her sedan with reluctance. She was the quiet one in the group, yet her intuition was razor sharp. A wave of tension flitted across her usually calm features when she saw Lauren and Theo. Without a word, they exchanged hugs, stiff and uncertain, as if reacquainting themselves with a grief-laden memory. DeLon was the last to arrive. He had been the oldest among them once, the de facto leader most nights. Now he emerged from his truck with a wary scowl. He wore his hair short, face marked with concern. Despite the years, the lines of anguish stayed etched around his eyes. "You all heard it, right?" he said. "That tune she used to whistle." They nodded in unison. After a few moments of awkward silence, they stepped inside the diner. The stale smell of coffee and aging vinyl clung to the air, providing a slice of the old days. Seated in a booth far from the patrons, they spoke in hushed tones. An intention hung among them, a sense that something unspoken had been lurking all these years. Lauren's hands clenched and unclenched under the table. I've been thinking a lot about that night. About us. Theo rubbed his eyes as if trying to chase away an oncoming headache. Who hasn't? Over the years, I tried to bury it. Now it's back. We never told anyone, did we? Not the full story. It's eating at us because we never confessed. Mia exhaled shakily. I should have done something, but we all promised to keep silent. It seemed simpler in the moment. No one wanted to ruin their future with the truth. Delon pressed his lips into a tight line. His usually confident voice was laced with an edge of desperation. I'm not sure if what we did was better or worse. We don't even know for sure what happened to her after we ran. Lauren's heart pounded against her ribs. We have to go back there, to the creek, especially now that we're hearing her whistle. If that's Eva, if somehow she's, I don't know, alive, or if it's her spirit, we owe it to her to face this. Theo nodded. Let's do it tonight. If there are answers to be found, we'll find them directly. Darkness cloaked the pines when they arrived at the clearing. The creek's soft gurgle broke the hush of the forest. Tangles of bramble and dead leaves crunched underfoot. The air felt thin, cold, as if the nighttime was laced with the sorrowful memory of what had once transpired there. They stood where the pine needles gave way to flat stone by the water's edge, flashlights in hand. Mia's beam illuminated the shape of a fallen trunk that had once served as a makeshift bench. The whisper of recollection flitted across Lauren's mind. The five of them sitting there, passing around contraband beers, listening to the hush of the wind through the branches. Eva had kept glancing at her watch that night, an anxious tick none of them really understood, except maybe for Delon. Lauren crouched behind a tree trunk and pushed aside wet, decaying leaves. This was where I found her bag, she said, voice trembling. But we left it there because we panicked when Eva started screaming about someone coming. She could still see the horror in Ava's eyes that night. Although Ava was not here now, Lauren could almost sense her presence. Tall, anxious, a jittery laugh that hovered just beneath the surface. Now Ava's absence was palpable. She had moved away soon after Ava's disappearance, refusing any further contact. Delon stepped forward, flashlight shining across the ground. We thought if we left her bag, the cops would blame us for underage drinking, for not keeping Eva safe. That was the official story anyway. We were scared. Theo's voice cracked. We were kids, stupid, scared kids. Sparks of memory returned, the snap of a branch in the distance, the distant shape looming in the darkness, their friend's startled cry, the group scattering. By the time they regrouped, Eva was gone, along with the bag. Perhaps she had run deeper into the woods. Perhaps she'd been taken. No one knew for sure. Suddenly, a chill breeze wound through the trees. The whistle echoed across the clearing, a high, forlorn note. Mia gasped. Oh my God, it's coming from somewhere down by the creek. They followed the sound, hearts thudding, leaves crunching underfoot. The whistle rose, then diminished, as if calling them onward. Eventually, the path narrowed along the creek's edge. The reflection of the moon gyrated on the black current, disturbed by swirling shadows. Delon lifted his flashlight and caught a glimpse of something on the bank. A flat, smooth object, half buried in the mud. He hunkered down, wiped away muck and held it up. It was the tail end of a plastic whistle, broken where the mouthpiece should have been. A jolt ran through them all. Eva had once owned a similar whistle, painted bright red, that dangled on a chain around her neck whenever they went exploring. Lauren's mouth went dry. It's nearly the same as hers. Mia touched her throat, exhaling slowly. There's no mistake. That's Ava's. I'm sure of it. She got it that summer at the carnival, insisted it would protect her from trouble. But this is broken, Delon said. And partially melted? He turned the whistle in his hands. Under the flashlight's glare, the surface appeared warped, disfigured by intense heat. A sudden flicker of memory seized Lauren. Flames, or the faint glow of something burning. She had a hazy recollection from that awful night. An angry shout, a scuffle, and flashes of firelight. Why would there have been fire near the creek? The whistle in the air ceased. The group stood in silence until Lauren finally voiced the question that had hovered for a decade. What happened after we split up? You recall how some of us went in different directions. Maybe we never told each other everything. Delon shut his eyes. God, I was with Eva for a moment. She whispered that we couldn't trust someone. Then I heard a noise, footsteps, and I ran the other way. I hate myself for it. I should have stayed, but I was terrified. He shook his head. I found Nia and Ava later. We only heard your shouts and then confusion. By the time we looked for Eva, she was gone. Theo pressed his fist to his mouth, voice shaking. I think we're missing a piece of that memory, something that explains the melted whistle, the footsteps, her disappearance. He gazed desperately at the trees. What if we dig around the clearing? Maybe she left something else behind. He didn't speak the words that lingered beneath his suggestion. Maybe she was left behind. All of them felt it, the ugly possibility. Even so, they were determined to uncover the truth. Spade, and the next night prepared. Theo hauled a spade and a small metal detector. Mia brought a canvas satchel of supplies, flashlights, gloves, and trash bags. Lauren carried the heavy burden of guilt. She had not told them everything, not yet. In the hush of her own nightmares, she recalled more details. The warmed glow of a single flashlight catching Ava's terrified face as someone grabbed her arm. The memory remained murky, but she feared it was no figment. They fanned out in the clearing, scanning for metal or any sign of disturbed earth. The undertone of a faint, sorrowful whistle occasionally drifted through the pines, the rustle of wind or Ava's call. Each time it came, they froze in dread, uncertain whether to chase or flee the sound. An hour passed, and they turned up nothing but wrappers, bottle caps, bits of rusted metal. The creeping cold settled in their bones. They were on the verge of giving up when Theo's detector let off a series of shrill beeps. They all rushed over, hearts pounding. It's picking up something large, Theo announced, kneeling to clear away leaves. Might be under a foot or more of dirt. He dug carefully, shoveling aside damp earth. The rest of them assisted, hearts in their throats. Eventually, the blade struck something solid. As they scraped away wet soil, an object emerged, dull gray and half collapsed. It was a small metal box, the kind that might hold tools or personal keepsakes. A hush fell over them. Mia used her gloved hand to pry open the rusted lid, revealing a cluster of scorched and water-damaged papers. At first glance, they seemed unreadable. Carefully, she lifted them out. Wait, Delon said, pointing to faint letter. Look here. It was a scrap of lined notebook paper, partially burned, but a few words stood out. He threatened, never tell, I'm so scared, Delon, can't trust. Part of the page was missing, leaving the clues incomplete. Another paper had partial words referencing a location or name, but only Ridge and ASIC were visible. Theo's brow furrowed at the partial reference to Delon. He looked across at him with an expression of wounded confusion. Why does it say your name? Did Ava suspect you of something? Delon's defensive posture was immediate. I don't know. I cared about her. She never said she was afraid of me. His eyes flicked between them, an undercurrent of anxiety. We have to consider some other explanation. Via examined the papers again, her voice trembling. It also says, he threatened. Can't tell. She was writing about someone terrifying her. Maybe she left these in a place they could be found if she disappeared. She gestured at the scorched edges. But why burn it? Lauren bit her lip, remembering that flicker of flame in her half-buried memory. Perhaps Eva tried to destroy her evidence when things went wrong, or someone forced her to. But who? Delon's voice was urgent. That's not all. Look. He reached deeper into the box, lifting a crumpled Polaroid photograph, its edges blackened from fire. It showed the group of them, Delon, Mia, Lauren, and Ava standing in front of the pine trees. Ava's face was circled in pen, with an arrow pointing to the whistle around her neck. A single word was scrawled in shaky pen strokes near the margin. Proof. Lauren's mind spun. Proof of what? The secrets that lurked behind that unnerving night threatened to swallow her. We need to keep searching. There has to be more. Morning came as the group, exhausted and shaken, retreated to Lauren's house for some semblance of rest. Sleep was fitful. Lauren dozed off on the couch, only to be jolted awake by the ghostly whistle slicing the silence. She sprang upright, every hair on her body prickling. Outside was dim, with dawn barely lighting the sky. Then she heard footfalls in the hallway. Theo and Mia, also roused by the eerie call. Seconds later, Delon burst through the back door, damp with sweat, eyes bloodshot. "Did you hear it? It was so close!" They all rushed out to the backyard. The wind moaned through the high pines, but the whistle died away. A single line of footprints marred the dew-kissed grass. Someone had been there, or it was a trick of the shifting earth. Either way, it left them rattled. "Maybe we're dealing with more than a haunting," Theo breathed. Lauren's heart hammered. "Are you saying Ava could be alive? That maybe she's the one leaving these signals? Someone else is using her whistle," Mia said quietly. "We can't forget that possibility. But who would do that, and why now?" By midday, they returned to the clearing to follow up on any potential leads. The tension among them was thick. The partial note, implicating Delon, hovered like a storm cloud. Stretching out near the water's edge, they scanned the ground for any overlooked clue. The creek was higher than usual, swirling with debris from the previous night's wind. As Lauren ventured closer, she spotted something half submerged in the current, a small leather-bound notebook, its cover worn. She gasped, plunging her arm in to retrieve it. Water dripped from the pages as she held it up. Carefully, she opened the soaked cover. Most of the pages were illegible. The ink bled beyond recognition, but deeper toward the center, a few entries survived. Her hands trembled as she scanned the scrawling handwriting. It wasn't Eva's. She recognized the messy loops and jagged edges of Ava's script. "I can't believe what I saw. He must have planned it. Eva's in danger. She might tell Lauren or the others if I don't do something, but I'm afraid. He'd kill me too." Lauren swallowed hard, reading aloud. Disjointed words followed, making references to the threat, the rumor, and the accident. The entry ended abruptly, with ink trailing off the page. They exchanged stunned glances. Delon's face twisted with a mix of shock and anger. "Are they suggesting I had something to do with Eva's disappearance? I never touched her." Mia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "We can't jump to conclusions. Obviously Ava suspected someone, but it may not be you." Theo stepped in. "We know Eva was worried about something. We also know Ava was spooked enough to flee. We can't ignore the possibility that she suspected you, Delon, or me, or any of us. All we can do now is keep searching for the truth." "But how?" Laurent asked, letting the dripping notebook fall to her side. "We're missing so many pieces. We just have fragments, unproven accusations." A sudden calm fell over Delon. "We find Ava. She's the one who wrote this. She disappeared from our lives shortly after that night, but she's still out there. We track her down, ask her what really happened." Lauren bit her lower lip. "She never responded to my calls or letters. We tried reaching her a few years ago, remember?" The determination in Delon's eyes was fierce. "Maybe it's time to try again, with more urgency." "Lauren." They returned to Lauren's home to begin the hunt for Ava's whereabouts. Old phone books, online searches, social media. Hours slipped by, day turned to dusk, and finally, Mia found a clue, an old post from a small community group indicating that someone with Ava's name had started volunteering at a women's shelter in a neighboring county. With further digging, they found an address. For Lauren, the day turned thick with anxiety. She feared confronting whatever secret Ava had carried all these years, but the tenacity to uncover the truth overtook her dread. Late that evening, she and Theo set out, leaving Mia and Delon behind to compare the new evidence they had found. After a long, tense drive, they arrived at a modest apartment complex. Boxy buildings with peeling paint rose by the street. They found the unit that matched the address and knocked. To their surprise, Ava answered. Her expression froze the moment her gaze landed on them. Ewald parched shock and alarm. She tried to shut the door, but Laren placed her foot across the threshold. Tears sprang to Ava's eyes, and she turned away in a mix of fear and shame. "Please, Ava," Laren pleaded. "We're just looking for the truth about Ava." Trembling, Ava led them into her small, dim living room. Stacks of cardboard boxes formed a makeshift table where coffee cups rested. She was gaunt, eyes bloodshot, as if she barely slept. In a quivering voice she spoke. I didn't want to face any of you again, that night. It's haunted me." Theo drew closer. "You wrote in your notebook that he threatened you. Who is he?" Ava sank onto the arm of her tattered couch. "I thought it was Delon. He and Ava had been fighting earlier that week. Something about money. She said she knew a secret that Delon was desperate to keep hidden. Then that night, after the rest of you drifted off, I saw him corner her by the creek. She tried to whistle for help, but he snatched it away and that's all I remember before I ran." Lauren's heart felt as though it would burst from her chest. "Did you see him? Did he—" Ava shook her head, tears spilling. "I just heard her scream and something that sounded like a splash. Delon always claimed to care about Ava, but I just couldn't stay to find out. I was too scared. Yet afterward I tried to piece it all together. The notes, the partial confessions. I buried them in that box so no one would ever find them, but I was also too guilty to destroy them entirely." Theo stared, stunned. "But we've been searching for an answer all these years. You could have spoken to the police." "I was terrified," Ava whispered. "Delon popped up once at my door. I swore I saw him, but maybe I was just paranoid. I ran. I've carried the guilt around like a disease ever since." Lauren pressed her lips together. Had they been living a lie about Delon's innocence? Could the big brother figure who once protected them have turned on Ava, or was Ava's memory distorted? "Ava, were you sure it was Delon? Could there have been someone else in the darkness?" The notes mentioned a bigger threat. She sniffled, wiping her cheeks. "I only saw a silhouette. It was tall like him, built like him, but I guess... No, I'm not entirely sure. I felt certain at the time, but I was hysterical, half-drunk, terrified. That's why I disappeared. My guilt over not knowing for certain, over possibly condemning the wrong person, ate away at me." Theo's eyes softened. "We found Eva's whistle, partially melted, and a note with Delon's name. But we still don't have the full story." Ava bowed her head. "I might have left you with more questions than answers. I'm sorry." Lauren thought of Delon's anguished denial, his shock at the note. "We need to talk to him. Confront him openly with you. Will you come back? Help us solve this once and for all." Ava hesitated, tears welling anew, as if the very thought of returning to that haunted place suffocated her. Finally she nodded, voice trembling. "Yes, I need closure. I can't live in fear of shadows anymore." Minutes settled deep by the time they returned to Lauren's home. Delon and Mia were waiting, rummaging through more old photos. The tension in the air crackled when Delon set eyes on Ava for the first time in a decade. Uncertainty arched his brows. Anger warred with longing to know the truth. Ava tried to speak, but words failed her. It was Lauren, in a firm voice, who laid out what Ava remembered. Delon's eyes widened, flickering with indignation and then sorrow. "I never threatened her," he insisted. "Yes, Eva found out I was dealing with regaining custody from my father. She offered me some money, or rather, she threatened to reveal something about our family. I was furious, yes, but I never would have harmed her." His voice grew thick. "I did meet her near the creek that night. I told her to stop meddling. When we heard someone approaching, she panicked, told me that we couldn't trust them. She flung the whistle aside and ran, and that was the last I saw her. I swear it on my life." Ava sobbed. "Then who grabbed her? I saw a silhouette." Delon shook his head, shoulders hunched. "I didn't see anyone else. If there was someone, I never knew." Luan pressed a palm to her temple, reeling. "So maybe we missed the real culprit. We all assumed it was one of us at fault. But what if someone else was out there in those woods?" Silence weighed on them. The house creaked. Wind rattled the windows. Memories of rumors about a reclusive neighbor or midnight drifters came to mind. Over the years, local legends sprang up about that night, but the police never found a suspect. Then, through the hush, that keening whistle sounded again, so close it seemed to emanate from the yard. The group froze, hearts pounding. Ava's eyes locked with Lauren's. In an almost trance-like state, they moved to the back door, swung it open, and stepped outside. There, in the faint moonlight, stood a slim figure by the pines. Her hair was longer now, unkempt, and her clothes hung in tatters. Even in the dim, they recognized the shape of her face, the posture of her shoulders, the slight tilt of her head. It was Eva, chained by time, but unmistakably her. Holding a small, battered whistle to her lips, no one spoke, fear and shock overwhelming them. Eva took a step forward, the whistle slipping from her trembling hand. A haunted look filled her eyes. "I'm sorry," she croaked, voice raspy as if unused for years. "I never meant to vanish." Ava was the first to find her words. "But how?" Ava's lips quivered. "I was chased that night. I ran along the creek, stumbled and fell. I was hurt, scared out of my mind. He cornered me, demanded I never speak of what I saw." DeLon inhaled sharply. "Who, Ava? Who cornered you?" She wrapped her arms around herself, tears steaming down her cheeks. "Your father, DeLon. I was blackmailing him, not you. I found out he was using you, forcing you to hustle money for him. He threatened me, said if I told I'd regret it. That night, he found us. I burned my notes so he wouldn't get them. I ran and fell off the ledge into the creek, almost drowned. He must have assumed I was dead. By the time I crawled out and realized how serious it was, I was bleeding, exhausted. I was sure none of you would trust my story." Eva shook her head, tears falling. "I didn't know what else he might do. I fled. No ID, no phone. I was too scared to come back, not sure who was in on it, but I needed you to help me prove the truth if I was going to face him. I left hints, whistled the old tune. I was too scared to just show up, after all this time." DeLon looked as though he'd been punched in the gut. "If I had known. My father told me you were a runaway, that you'd threatened to frame me." Eva's gaze shifted to the group, heartbreak and longing in her eyes. "I'm so sorry. I let fear rule me, but I never stopped thinking about you all. I hoped the whistle would draw you back to the clearing, to the truth." They closed the distance between them. Lauren, Ava, Mia, Theo, and DeLon gathered around Eva in a tearful huddle. The guilt and secrets weighed on them heavily, yet relief glimmered through like sunlight after a storm. They all had a part to own in the fear-fueled silence that had cost them a decade of anguish. Lauren found her voice through her tears. "We'll help you, Ava. We'll go to the authorities together, let them know everything." A flicker of a smile surfaced in Ava's trembling lips, though sorrow still clouded her. "I'm tired of running. It's time to set it all right, no matter the cost." Hush fell, broken only by the shuffle of their feet on the damp grass and the quiet sobs that choked the back of Ava's throat. In the distance, wind hissed through the pines, echoing the old melody that once haunted them. But this time, instead of bringing terror, the faint whistle felt like a sad farewell to their buried crime of silence, and the first step toward finally laying it to rest.